to capacity building through nonprofits? Are we innovative in our approach in nonprofit leadership? Are we innovative in our approach to impacting society? Next, we need to create agency story. How is that story relevant to the interests of the foundations we plan on approaching? Employing storytelling as a best practice. Okay, every good story will have a protagonist, a conflict, a hook, and how the story relates to practical society. We want to put down who the protagonist is. What is the conflict? What's the hook? And what does the story mean? And we want to model that story in such a way that it reflects on our organization's capacity, it reflects on our organization's mission, it reflects on our organization's vision, and in such a way that it reflects the interests of each foundation. Let's take a look at some of the components of successful proposals. A successful proposal will always tell the story effectively. It will explain how the need for the proposed project was determined. It will describe how we plan on addressing this need. It'll tell what other organizations are working with us to achieve these goals and what their respective roles are. It'll explain how we plan to evaluate the project's impact. It'll explain what the budget for the project is, what the expenses are, what the revenues are. And most importantly, it would outline how the benefits of the program will be sustained beyond the grant period. Again, we need to make sure on a successful proposal, the components of successful proposals are proposals that tell the story effectively. They describe how the need for the proposed project was determined, what our plans are to actually address this need, all the organizations that will be involved with us, and what their respective roles in the specific project will be, how we plan on evaluating the project's impact, what the budget for the project is, what the expenses for the project are, what the revenues for the project are, and how the benefits of the program, the most crucial one, how the benefits of the program will be sustained beyond the grant period. Is this going to be a project that will drain the foundation's resources as long as it's in existence? Or is it a project that can be gotten off the ground and then move ahead on its own? That's actually one of the most common challenges in proposals, the sustainability of a project. The foundation will want to know why it's so difficult to demonstrate the sustainability of a program. Now, some of the less convincing strategies that foundations themselves have put up. These foundations have put up some of the least convincing strategies that proposals that were inherent in proposals. Our organization has a track record of fundraising success, and we believe we'll be able to increase our private donations to cover program costs after the grant funding expires. If the organization has a track record of fundraising success and they can actually increase the private donations after our grant funding expires, then just go ahead and get your private donations. Why are you coming to us? If you're coming to us, your fundraising success is determined by our decisions. If we decide not to fund you, you won't have much fundraising success. If you are successful in fundraising, then go back to your funders. Another strategy, after the grant period ends, we'll absorb the program costs into our general operational budget. Here, the foundation would take a look and say, 1 minute. If your operational budget can fund the cost of this program, then don't come here. Put it in, put it in your budget right now. There are plenty of people that need our resources that can't get it into their budget. And if you can't get it into your budget today, why would you be able to get it into your budget in a year from now? And probably the least convincing strategy when trying to demonstrate sustainability will solicit other private foundations to fund the ongoing costs of this program after your funding expires. Translated into plain English, that means this program is not self-sustainable. This program will drain the resources of every foundation we can get our hands on. Again, when trying to demonstrate sustainability, we want to stay away from tooting our agency's fundraising success. We want to stay away from statements that make no sense. And we want to stay away from statements that indicate the program is not self-sustainable. We don't want to toot our fundraising success simply because it's not a believable statement. If the agency has fundraising success, then there's no particular reason why they'd be going to this foundation. The only reason an agency would be going to or initiating a relationship with a particular foundation is because they're looking to increase their funding, is because they're looking to supplement their current funding. They're looking to fill the gap in funding in their current funding. If there are no gaps in the funding, then there's no reason to initiate relationships with new funders. We want to stay away from statements that just plain and simply make no sense. We want to stay away from statements that explain after the grant period ends we can absorb the costs in the general operational budget. That just makes no sense. If the operational budget can sustain this project, then there's no reason to solicit a grant. If the operational budget can't sustain the project, then there's no way we can absorb it. There's no way we can absorb its costs in our budget. And finally, we want to stay away from statements that demonstrate the unsustainability of the project. By telling the foundation, we will solicit other private foundations to fund the ongoing costs of this program after your funding expires. In plain English, what we're saying is that this program will require funding as long as it's around. This program will need continuous funding in order for it to impact. And if you don't fund us until the end, then we'll have to go to other foundations to fund it. So we want to stay away from these three styles of statements. The examples are just the quotes that we have here are just examples of these categorical statements. For example, our organization's track record of fundraising success is an example of a statement saying that we really don't need your grant, but we'd like to increase our donor base. The quote indicating the ability to absorb a cost in the general operational budget is an example of a quote, is an example of a statement saying, is an example of a statement that makes no sense. And the quote, we will solicit other private foundations, is an example of a categorical statement that this program is unsustainable. We want to stay away from these. We want to stay away from these categories of quotes. How should we solve the sustainability conundrum? How should we solve the problem when trying to demonstrate sustainability? So here are some of the quotes, the more convincing demonstrations. Your grant will allow us to develop pilot data that will strengthen our application for our agency's Healthy Tomorrows Partnership for Children program. So we're looking to develop pilot data. We need data that's going to strengthen a specific program, a specific application. The application itself does not need funding, but the pilot data does. What we're telling the nonprofit, what we're telling the foundation is as follows. We have a program that is self-sustainable, but to get that program off the ground, we need pilot data.